Alright, everybody ready? Okay. On the morning of September 11, 2001, Steve kissed his wife Wendy before heading out to his job as a custodian on the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Unfortunately, Wendy never saw Steve again. After finally accepting the death of her husband, Wendy filed for a death certificate and arranged for Steve's funeral. Wendy received workers' compensation from the state and Social Security death benefits from the federal government. Because Steve and Wendy only had a few assets, they never really saw the need for a will. Nonetheless, Steve's assets, including the house, car, and his savings account, were given to Wendy by law. That same morning, John kissed Joe, his partner of 21 years, as he headed to his job as a clerk in that same North Tower. Just like Wendy, Joe never heard from John again. Joe applied for workers' compensation and Social Security. However, unlike Wendy, he was told that he wasn't eligible to receive any of the benefits because he wasn't John's legal spouse. Though John and Joe were registered as domestic partners and were each other's insurance beneficiaries, and even though John had paid the same exact taxes as Steve, Joe didn't receive any of the compensations that were given to Wendy, and Joe was left without any means of supporting himself after the death of his partner. My claim tonight is that the U.S. government's refusal to recognize same-sex marriages causes homosexual citizens to lose eligibility to receive economic benefits, rights, and privileges that come with marriage. The first point I'm going to make is that the life of a same-sex couple is much more expensive than that of a married couple. A study by the Congressional Budget Office states that 1,148 provisions were found in which marital status was a main factor in receiving benefits, rights, and privileges, of which included spousal and survivor Social Security benefits, which resulted in a difference in Social Security income of $5,588 per year for same-sex couples when compared to married couples. In addition, the private sector offers many benefits for married couples that do not apply to same-sex couples, such as lower insurance rates. Only 18% of insurance companies in the U.S. give domestic partnership benefits. As a result, 20% of same-sex couples in the U.S. have a partner who is uninsured. Some other economical disadvantages of gay couples include the following. Couples are taxed for additional compensation instead of being part of a spouse's employee health insurance. In addition, same-sex couples in which one partner has a significantly higher income are not eligible to pay a substantially smaller tax as a result of the difference in the partner's income. Lastly, same-sex partners are not able to receive free and/or reduced tuition for spouses of university employees, as well as eligibility for low-cost bank loans. The second point I'm going to make tonight is that without the right to marriage, working and middle-class same-sex couples are not able to afford legal services to plan for emergencies. For example, in the case of a medical emergency, gay couples are often left out of the life-changing medical decision-making process without expensive legal documents such as living wills and power of attorney. Married couples are not required to provide these documents to make important medical decisions. As a matter of fact, up until April 15th of 2010, homosexuals were not even allowed immediate visitation rights to their hospitalized partners. This revision was inspired by a case involving a lesbian couple, Janice Langdon and Lisa Pond. After Ms. Pond slipped into a coma as a result of a fatal brain aneurysm, Ms. Langdon was denied visitation rights by a hospital in Miami, Florida. Although Ms. Langdon had the power of attorney and was a parent to 4 children who they had adopted, Ms. Langdon and her kids were denied visitation rights of her partner of 18 years. 8 hours later, as Ms. Langdon tried in vain pleading hospital officials to let her see her partner, Ms. Pond died. President Obama finally granted visitation rights for gay couples this past Thursday. In the case of the death of a partner, same-sex couples cannot receive the Social Security survivor benefits that married couples do, and may be left without any means of supporting themselves, just like John and Joe. Same-sex couples are not able to inherit each other's estates without the need to pay an expensive estate tax. My third and final claim tonight is that gay couples are unable to provide an economic safety net for their family and, more importantly, their children. Children are forced to suffer from their parents' ineligibility of access to all the rights and benefits that secure their financial well-being. They are deprived of the financial protection in the case of death, separation, disability, and other serious types of events. Gay parents need to provide many legal expenses to ensure that they have the right to make important medical decisions for their children in the case of a medical emergency. The children of unmarried couples are not eligible to receive the health benefits from both the parents, as well as child support and visitation benefits from both parents in the case of separation. In the case of the death of a parent, the government provides Social Security benefits to neither the spouse nor the children. A Stanford University report from 2000 that surveyed the economic and legal disadvantages of same-sex couples concluded that the children living with same-sex partners are, quote, made to suffer as a result of same-sex couples being denied the freedom to marry. This gained the attention of the American Academy of Pediatrics in February of 2002, who issued a strong call for complete legal recognition of same-sex relationships. In conclusion, I believe that I've provided enough evidence to show that the U.S. government does indeed deprive same-sex couples of the rights, benefits, and privileges that come with marriages, and that these disadvantages cause the children and families of same-sex couples to suffer from economic hardships caused by the exclusion from marriage. Thank you.
All right, the story at the opening is pretty good and dramatic. By the way, if it's an actual example, you ought to give us a source citation. If it's a hypothetical, you ought to explain that. The proposition is identified, but it then has multiple parts to it, and then you have a separate organizational structure for the speech. So that's a little bit iffy. But once you get to the organizational structure, you do a good job signposting those particular points and giving us the claims on each of those points. Background information is okay. Like I said, the hypothetical or the actual example at the beginning is okay. The better you have a one later on about the visitation rights. I thought that was pretty solid. Again, you need to give us a source citation on that. I assume that's one of the things that Obama used in making the speech about announcing his policy on those hospital visitation issues. So it shouldn't be that hard to cite. There's some statistical information on insurance policies and those kinds of things. There's some stuff that's factual data about insurance rates. There was one issue that where you're talking about expensive legal documents like wills and powers of attorney, and this seems to be a presupposition that there's some huge cost involved in doing those kinds of things, and I think that's a little bit of a big presupposition. Most of those things are not all that expensive. But the better argument that you have is that they're not always effective, and I think that's the example that you cite later on. I don't know what the status is in Florida and what the issue is going to be, but I can't imagine that there wouldn't be, some lawsuit involved in that case where the power of attorney, a legal document, is not recognized by the hospital. And the point that you present is that Obama's actually given us a solution on that problem. Well, then what do we need the marriage for in order to fix that problem? It's apparently something that can be addressed in a different way. And that, although that example I think makes your point pretty effectively, the answer to it from the Obama action kind of undermines the legitimacy of the point that you're making. I thought that there were some good arguments about the impact that it has on children, and I thought that was a pretty effective way to address that issue on that third point.
All right, I got